I endeavor to keep writing as much as I can and keep improving.
Okay, all right. So let's come to the book that we have here,
Yes.
right? The Dark Side of Light. I want to start first with the name, Sanil. It's an intriguing name. It's seemingly contradictory, but
Yes.
it's not. So what was the thought behind this?
Well, the dark side of light, one, the simplistic answer to that is that it's a poem in my book, along with the fiction. However, as you rightly said, it's contradictory. And the book has an array of genres, different characters traversing from love, murder, mystery, and a lot of a combination of all the emotions in one, because it's a ripple effect. And thus, the dark side of light is contradictory in itself, and also because there is a dark side of light. And as I've discussed, and as we were speaking earlier, even a bulb has a darker side to it when you look at a lit bulb. And it's also a name that intrigued me. And I say that I sound very vain now because I did name it, but I was given the confidence about it by others who recommended it as well.
Yeah, because life is about the grays, right? The nuances. Okay. Any particular themes that dominates the book? Is there
a particular theme, and I wouldn't say it's the core theme. However, I believe the first emotion we're all really introduced to is love. We're born and we know, I mean, obviously most of us, everyone's crying, but love is the first emotion.
Right.
And from love you can then, obviously it leads to happiness, but you'll never just be happy. And I feel that would be the core theme, but then from love you go into vengeance and hatred at times.
I think you've left out something very vital. What about lust?
Yes, of course. I mean, that's a fine.
Yes.
That's a fine.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and there's a fine line between love and lust, as I like to believe. And again, that is a predominant theme in the book as well as you.
Okay, actually, if you pick up the book, it's very interesting because there are three different literary genres here. There's the short stories, there's poetry, and there are two screenplays.
Yes.
Right? And so I was asking Sanil, because in terms of the way it is listed, I mean, the way you've sort of interspersed the stories with the poems, was there actually, I mean, there must have been a kind of a pathway that you chose.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the themes, would you like to share with us what you had in mind?
So when I started writing this, again, I didn't write this with the intention of a book, but when I started writing and covering different themes, at first it seemed like it's going all over the place because people are used to, let's say, reading one particular genre and one particular theme. However, when it came to curating this book, I wanted to give the reader an experience where it's like a roller coaster.
Right.
We will build up and then we will fall down. And that's where I have started with a story called An Eye for an Eye, which is a murder.
It's a very gory story. It made my stomach churn.
And
but yeah.
that means I've done the right thing.
Absolutely. That was the intent. You're there.
And An Eye for an Eye was the first. And like you asked me, why was that the first one?
Yeah.
It's because I actually don't have the right answer for that. I won't even lie. I don't know. I like the way it started.
It was drama.
It's drama,
yeah. Okay.
And then the poems that we put in the middle it's a mere taster to the fiction, and it sets a theme and a mood for you. So I'd like to believe when someone reads it, they will have several emotions at the same time, and hopefully it will feel like a roller coaster.
Okay, so shall we start with a short reading, Sanil? I think you've picked a piece. Would you like to tell us that is this one of your favorite stories?
It is one of my favorite stories, and it's called Members Only. It's set in 2034 in New Delhi, and it's in India's first ever strip club. Now the story, I'm going to read an excerpt, and it's a short one, and then I'm going to skip 10 pages and time travel and leave these little breadcrumbs for you to figure out where this really goes. So Raghav is the protagonist, and he's got his own complexities in life, as we tend to add. And the reason I've got this Rubik's Cube is just to explain that. I got this Rubik's Cube when it was all sorted out. I jumbled it all up, and now I'm trying to get it back is what it was. And that's the irony, and that's what Raghav's really done with his life. And to add another color, what's happened is he has now added another color and ruined his pattern, because now he has faced a breakup. His friends, however, have given him an experience to go for the first VIP experience in a strip club. 15 minutes into the session, and this is Raghav.
Which page are you at?
Page 53.
Okay.
I looked at her with a sense of familiarity, although we had been strangers just under 15 minutes ago. It's funny how when we meet someone for the first time, we don't know the significance they will have in our lives, whether they will be a 5-minute conversation or a lifetime commitment. I knew nothing about her, despite the fact that she had made me forget all the complexities that had weighed me down. And I was certain I didn't want her to be a mere conversation. Now, I'm going to go 10 pages further and try and ruin the story for you. So Raghav has just about persuaded Dana, as is her stripper name, and Disha is her second name. So he's now having dinner with Dana / Disha. Before this one-off dinner, I didn't want to be loved again. I didn't want to be anyone's first message in the morning, last call at night, or midday thought. Love is essentially a selfish emotion. We dedicate our time to someone else, but in reality, we expect them to do the same for us. So love is not being selfless and giving. It's about being greedy and always wanting to receive. Real love isn't constant butterflies and melodies in your head. It's an aching pain in your gut from being anxious when she is not around you and breathing heavily when she is. A feeling I had prepared myself to endure.
Okay. So there is a story behind this. I mean, you told me that this was about a strip club in London.
Yes.
And why don't we have them in India?
Yeah, so thus I have also put it in 2034.
Right.
So that no one can challenge what I'm saying, because I'm looking into the future. I played that one safe.
Right.
And after I defended that ball, the reason I put a strip club in India is because it's just another profession. And as there is in this book, a lot of people might see it as something that is in a negative manner, and that doesn't make sense, because
the moral policing that we have here. Yes.
Yeah, and you end up, what essentially happens is you pay for the experience. They're not paying you for you to enter. And that's the irony of it, and people will still look at it in a
derogatory way.
I mean, the dark side.
Yeah, and yet they'll all want to be there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And I got this, the reason I chose this story to share with you is because when I was in London in May last year, I spoke to a stripper from Latvia, and it was amazing because I got to know her life. She didn't share her real name. She shared her name, which is Dana.
Right.
And that's her stage name. To be safe, she has a stage name, and which makes sense. And she told me about her life, how she has a steady relationship, how she wants to get into acting. She wants to be there in New York's Broadway and the Queen's Theatre in London, and that's what I've shared here. So obviously, there's a lot of fiction, but it's spurred from reality.
Right.
And it really got me thinking about challenging the norm. Why can't we put it in India? So when I wrote it the first time, I placed this in London, and then I spoke to a really close friend of mine, and he said, "Have you thought about this in India?" I said, "Are you crazy?
Right.
Have you thought about it in India?" He's like, "Yes." Not now.
Not that friend. No. Okay.
No, not them. not them.
Right.
However, they would visit it, obviously.
Okay.
Merely for the experience of writing a book.
Everyone here would visit it if we had a strip club. Come on. Right. Yeah.
And that's where I got these thoughts to write this.
Okay. In fact, what's interesting is that you made her a student and a stripper, and that's great because it gives the the everydayness of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I've read a couple of the stories, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyway. But Sanil, they don't have a happy ending. Most of them. It's like it's an exploration. It's like life going on, and is that a conscious thing that you kind of, And some of it, you leave it open-ended.
Yeah. The reason I leave it open-ended is because the readers or anyone then gets to create their own story. And that, again, so when you're reading it, I hope when you do read it, it's your journey and then you take it forward.
Okay.
However, when it comes to not giving a happy ending, I don't try and not create a happy ending. And for some odd reason, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And I just end up, for me, some of them are happy endings, which is strange. And some might call me...
Meaning they've been resolved in some way.
Some way or the other. Okay. However, I've been asked multiple times to write something that's happy. And my mom's asked me, and she's like, why do you write such dark stuff? And it's like, you okay?
Is there some childhood trauma I've been a part of?
Yeah. And someone did ask me that yesterday, and they were like, have you had a traumatic childhood? And I was like, no, I've been graced with a really good one. They're like, why do you write like this? I was like, I don't know. I really can't answer that.
Since we're talking about it, I wanted to ask you, because there have been quite a few authors that have come on to the Samvad platform, and we had this fabulous fantasy writer, German writer, Cornelia Funke, who said that, I mean, she brought up J.K. Rowling, who apparently had written the end of her Harry Potter series before she developed the books. And I mean, so her thing was that I just receive. My characters speak to me. I don't know where my plot is going. You know, it's not that I have a predefined structure and then I flesh it out with characters and a storyline. You know, my characters speak to me and tell me what they want to do. What's your process?
It's sort of similar. I don't write the end, but I make sure I can sum up my stories within a line. What I'm writing now.
When do you do that? Before you start or the end?
Before I start, I want to know where I'm beginning from and where I'm going to end. The journey is as mysterious as it is with literally one word at a time.
Okay.
Then I try and curate my characters, and at times I try, like a method actor, I try and become my character. I start thinking like my character. I know in Members Only what Raghav would be doing after going to the strip club. So that's how I try and make myself think in order to be more relatable when someone reads it or when I write it. So I try and sum it up in one line.
Okay. And a lot of your characters are, I mean, the protagonists are generally 20, 21, 22. It's because, I mean, you can relate to that and, you know.
I can relate to that. And some of them I haven't given an age. Reason being because we end up, although we all think differently, and that's where our individualism comes, we can still think alike. And I haven't given, in many of my characters, I haven't told you whether it's a male or female. I haven't told you the age, anything about it. However, when it comes to writing for a 22 or 23-year-old, that's where I mean, that's how I'm thinking right now. So I would be lying if I wrote about someone else.
There's an honesty there, so which is good, Okay, so let's get to the poetry. Raghav, would you like to read something from your poems?
Yes, I'm going to read a poem called Nights Pass By.
And why have you chosen that? Because, all right, so altogether, how many short stories and how many poems are there here?
There are 25 short stories and 48 poems.
Okay.
And 2 scripts, as you mentioned.
Okay.
So, Nights Pass By. I'm not going to go too much into the poem because I don't want to give you my interpretation of it and ruin it for you. However, the reason I picked this one is because we end up, like, again, going back to this Rubik's Cube that I will never be able to solve, you start to make everything more complex than it is. And you start to overthink. And that's why I wrote this. However, now when I read it, it has different meanings. And this is on page 32.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it.
Nights pass by. Days pause and wait. I lay here resting my thoughts while my eyes are wide awake. I feel a heat in my stomach. This isn't from delusional fixations. I feel a lull in my mind. This isn't from past conversations. My brows act as shutters, weighing pressure on my swollen eyes. My mind plays the job of a bank, storing missed opportunities and broken lies. I type each word with an anchor chained around my mouth. Words seem to flow easier through this keyboard while I try and figure out what I am about. Confusion and anguish accompany me as subjects to my demise. I smile at distant mirrors to hear back their cries.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So what's the process, Raghav? Is this also one word at a time, or does it just flow and then you revisit and edit? Or?
Oh, I'm very impatient with my poetry.
Okay.
I just write it,
and
then I leave it for a bit.
Huh.
I let it bake, and then I come back, and I look at it, and I'm like, what is that? Tear it up, write it again. So I'm really stubborn when it comes to poetry.
Okay.
Because you can never perfect it. You can't.
Yeah.
The same way you can't perfect anything, I think, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So with poetry, earlier I used to write it, and I'm like, oh, those are my thoughts. I'm going to leave it. But now I write it, come back, and keep trying. Because however, I'm going to contradict myself now. What I end up doing is I end up changing my own thoughts. So and then I just lie to myself. Am I really thinking of distant mirrors, or am I not? And then I argue with myself.
So you overthink.
I overthink. Yeah, I'm overthinking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But are the poems about your own internal process and your thoughts, or are there any ballads you're going to write or anything like that? Step back.
No. Well,
it's deeply personal, most of it.
It is particularly personal, but a lot of my work, even the fiction right now, I get my stories from people I speak to, their lives, and just a process I go through is every day. I use one part of my day, a conversation, a phrase, an expression I saw that really caught my attention for a while, and then I'll write that down, and then I'll try and curate that in a manner that will maybe help me in a beneficial manner or not.
Right.
So yes, these are personal, but a lot of them are personal to you because they're very open-ended thoughts, and emotions aren't something that are personal. Everyone can share them. You can't be greedy with them.
Yeah. So how did you get about getting yourself published, Sanil?
I didn't have I didn't ever want to get published, and the reason
you didn't want to get published?
And the reason I say I didn't want to is because I didn't think I could.
Okay.
And that's where I started doubting myself, and that was probably the worst thing I could have done because it's.
Right.
However, now I've learned just don't doubt your potential. Just keep going further, and I mean it's funny how we're in Ford Samvad because Ford just go further, and that's what we all need to do. And that's what I did. I started writing poetry when I was overthinking when I was 17, and I wrote one piece of work and I started writing a lot. One of my friends said, blog, so I put my work up on a blog, and then I wanted to get advice. So I used to type a lot of my work. However, I advise write your work. I mean, it's the best. It's the best way of doing it. Typing takes out a bit of the beauty of
lots of
writing.
17-year-olds write poems when they're jilted by their girlfriends or boyfriends. Was that your impetus?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sorry.
By mine, by others.
And did you give it to her, or did you keep it deep within your
I mean,
heart?
it's in a book now, so I can't even hide it. Whether I wanted to keep it, I can't anymore.
Okay. Does she know the original person you wrote
it
for?
No.
They, okay, all right.
No, I'm trying to act cool. They don't know. A lot of it, I wouldn't want to give all of this to just one person.
Yeah, sure.
But
the inspiration.
But the inspiration, yes, I'm sure they know.
Okay.
And I tried approaching lots of publishers, and I used to have a note on my BlackBerry at the time, just called publishers, and I didn't get in touch with any of them, and all I wanted to do was get to know how to write better.
Right.
Again, because I never thought of getting published, and Rupa Publications were the only people I didn't have the number of.
Right.
However, I found their number, email, got in touch with them, met them, and this was 4 years ago. And they read my work. It was 18 pieces, and they said, "Come back in 2 months. This could get published." They just said that. I think they said that to motivate me. I went back home and I told my parents, and my parents were really happy. They're like, "Just keep going. Don't get too excited," because I have a tendency of doing that. Overthinking and getting too excited.
Right.
And I wrote and I went back, and after 2 months, Rupa Publications basically said, "We want to publish you." And the first book is called Summer Promises and Other Poems, and that's because I wrote 60 pieces over the summer.
Was that 60 times that you got jilted? No.
No.
Sorry, carry on. Yeah.
I don't even think I'd want that.
Sorry, drop it.
Yeah. And that's how I was lucky enough to get published.
Okay. Yeah. You had another piece that you would have liked to read to us.
Yes.
Yeah? Which is completely different from the earlier two.
Yeah, definitely. And this is called Painted Red. It's a murder story. It's about, I'm not going to give out too much. I don't call myself I can't really talk about my stories that well. I think I can write them. So I'm not going to ruin it now, but it's again, the core theme where it started from is love, and it's a brother's narration and his story. And this is just going to be an excerpt from the beginning.
What page is that?
This is this is page 85, and then we'll find it because there aren't any page numbers on certain pages. And that's a design. It's not a typo. Okay, just want everyone to know. We're trying to be really hip here. It's probably a typo.
No, it's not. It's being cool. It's not. Yeah.
Okay. Have you got it?
I've got it. Yeah.
So this is Painted Red. He didn't know it, but he deserved this, and I made sure I whispered it in his ear as I held his head against my bloodied hands. I carved an apology into his back. It was not from myself. It was on his behalf, of the trauma he had caused me while he could have still have been of help. I smiled looking up at the sun that shone brightly, radiating rays that caused the river on his back to seem even more vibrant. His body was laid out on the floor like a dismantled mannequin, drowning, stained in the congealing blood as I heard the sounds of sirens becoming more and more audible to my ears. I adjusted my crouched position and knelt on the thick pool of blood, which formed a red carpet for my inevitable act. I stared at his ghoulish condition with a feeling of satisfaction and an air of achievement. It was intensified by the smell of blood, which was like the odor in a slaughterhouse. I felt a heat within my body rush through my pulsating veins as the adrenaline flowed, making me feel like I was on a roller coaster. My eyes, that had been burning with rage only 10 minutes ago, when this alley had witnessed one man's time run out, was still as red as the blood that painted the road. I arched my back to stare at the skies, which were also witness to an act that had been a foreseeable consequence of my brother's murderer. And then it begins.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so to Sanil, to come back to what we started off with about self-belief.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you feel that, I mean, from my perspective, I'm a completely different generation. People must have told you that we didn't have so many options or choices. Yeah. It was traditional, conventional. I feel actually that because everything has opened up, you know, I mean, someone wants to get into river rafting, you know, they get into adventure sports or whatever. The canvas has opened up. It's up to you to be able to be more as inventive and enterprising as you want to. But do you still feel that young people lack self-belief?
I don't think they lack self-belief. They just don't want to showcase it. And when I say they, I'm talking about myself a few years ago, and now I'm trying to, even if you think you can't do it, I think you have to be able to lie to yourself and say, I can. Because in truth, you actually can do what you think you can't do. Failure is always inevitable because you're not going to try.
Yeah, but it's something that you have to be really passionate and committed to, right?
Definitely. It's always worth following your passion. And the reason I've taken up writing is because it's a calling, and I feel you'll always be best at your passion and best at what you do if you're following your passion. And it's just something what I believe is it's not worth doubting your potential. Just doubt the height it can reach, and just keep beating that.
And keep raising the bar.
Keep raising the bar. Never think you've reached the finish line and just sit back and relax, because then it's all memories from the past. And I think people aren't doubting. They don't doubt themselves. They're just scared maybe initially. And it's literally the first word that's the hardest bit. And then you're actually going to find it hard to stop or do what you're doing.
Okay.
And I've been speaking to some great people here, and the volunteers, they're amazing. And their ambitions and their endeavors are, and like you said, it's everything and anything. If someone gets slack because they're playing video games for too long, they can become a gamer. They can get the education, and that's the opportunities that we are fortunate, to be exposed to now. I've heard that earlier you couldn't.
Yeah, but I just have to say that the one thing that I need to keep telling young people I work with is really about grit.
Yeah.
About staying the course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to get passionate and to say, I'm going to do this, but then the hard work that's required, and you're not going to be successful immediately.
Yeah.
You need to keep working at it.
Definitely.
You know, and then there would be the, I mean, the fruits of your labor.
You said it very rightly, and I've been taught this and told this ever since I've been growing up. It's hard work and perseverance.
Yeah.
They're the two key ingredients. You keep them.
There's no replacement for that.
And they have to go side by side. You can't just be working hard and not pushing yourself or pushing your, whether, like, for example, if someone wants to get published, just, you know, with regards to a book, you have to get yourself out there, try and get approached. Never think you've done it, like you said, or succeeded. I think it's just success isn't like being able to reach the finish line. It's being able to open newer and newer doors each time. And that's what people are doing, I think. And I think it's especially something, and I just want to say this, I actually want to start with it. It's festivals like this festival really reinstates that everyone has self-belief. Everyone wants to do what they love. And it's these 4 days, 5 days that need to be celebrated throughout the year. And I think it's changing, and with each year, as you've seen as well, that the confidence is getting better, and organizations like Yuvikta are creating leaders for tomorrow and a better future.
I hope so. Yeah, but I mean, and one thing we keep bringing up is exploring your paradigm of success. What is success? Is success, again, is it money? Is it your bank balance? Is it fame? Or is it, as you spoke about, personal satisfaction, being able to do what you believe in and then also have food on your table?
Definitely.
Because how much is never, I mean, enough is never enough, you know, you always want more and more.
Yeah, it's true. You can be, I think hunger is necessary in what you have to be hungry, not so hungry that anything is sufficient.
Yeah.
I think that's where we end up choosing anything. It's like being in a buffet and you just pick whatever you want that comes first.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to realize what success means to you. Is it eternal happiness? Is it money? Is it being able to sleep longer hours? I wish, you know, that's what I love. But yeah, I think once you know that, and then you can really follow your path or create a path, really.
Okay. Okay, to come back to books and reading, any favorite character from any of the readings that you have? Someone who stays with you and keeps coming back and popping into your mind?
From my own work or from others' work?
Well, from others and your own. Maybe you want to start with your own?
No, I'll start from others.
Okay.
And I'm one for non-fiction. I read Dongri to Dubai and I recommended it to my friends over here who were sitting, and I think they loved it as well because it spoke about the mafia, and I like reading into the mafia, not the crimes they do, but the reasons behind it. And again, it actually starts with the love and passion of something, which is really ironic because they love something, they want to create it, but they end up destroying. And this is with anything. So I loved reading that book. I wouldn't want to say one of the characters was my favorite, obviously.
Okay, okay.
Because there were several characters and they were all non-fictional. But I'm more for non-fiction. I don't have any particular character that fascinates me. However, because I've been so occupied reading this book and writing it, and
this was what, it took you 2 years for it to,
It's taken me over 2 years. It's taken me around 3 years. If you look at the first piece of work, which is called Tamanna, which is a war-based love story.
Which you wrote?
Yes,
okay,
which is based in Kargil in '97, and Tamanna is a character I'm really fond of, and however, the character.
And who is Tamanna?
Tamanna is someone I don't know,
okay.
and I think that's what makes me now sound like a psycho, but I assure you,
is it a
Tamanna is a girl,
okay,
and Tamanna
is a girl.
So that's where I've left it very ambiguous. I haven't told anyone anything else about Tamanna. I have not described. Tamanna is who you want Tamanna to be. The way she looks.
Apni Tamanna. Okay.
And Tamanna has a dual meaning.
Right.
So as you read it, I have not told you the protagonist's name, the soldier. Tamanna is a very open-ended story from the beginning.
Okay.
It's going somewhere, but it's up to you how you want to create Tamanna, if you want to be Tamanna, if you want to be the soldier.
Oh, okay.
But just, this is me overthinking and over-talking right now. So the story and the character I really like is Rose, and this is in a story called An Everlasting Travel, A Never-Ending Journey. It's my last story, the second last piece of work here, and that's it. It's a mystery. It's a love story come mystery, and that traverses against 4 different cities. And I love Rose because she's a character that actually gets the protagonist to be who he wants to be and how he wants to be.
Right.
And
you've handled it lighter than
yes.
some of the other ones, right?
Yes, yes. It's a travel-based story. I didn't want to make it too hardcore. However, I can still, like we were discussing, this one's got an open ending.
Right.
And it might annoy someone, but it's for you to take forward.
Okay.
It's like a relay race. So you take the baton and you go forward.
So, I mean, there are lots of, I think, young people here listening. If you wanted to give them any tips in terms of how would they set out writing? Yesterday, I had a 15-year-old ask another author, you know, I want to write, but I don't know where to start. So she said, so what's your idea? And he says, well, I don't know.
Okay. That's actually great. I mean, clutter is the best thing because only then you can really sort out what you want. Okay. And that's why I clutter my cupboard. I mean, not because I'm disorganized, but what I do is when I write, I've written loads of things here. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But out of this, when I read it later, I'll try and pick things that make sense to me. And that's actually a cure for what you call writer's block as well.
Okay.
When you don't know what you want to write about, just write anything that's coming to your head, get it out there, and then pick what you want and let that stem into something else. And it's a technique I use, and as I was talking about earlier, I use one part of my day, anything, and try and use only one. Don't be greedy and pick more than one. Because when you do that, you end up, again, that's clutter, and then you're going back to step 1. And I think if you're confused, it's good. Let your characters take you. Don't take your characters when they want. However, let your individualism take you and write the way you want. So maybe what I'm saying doesn't make sense right now, or I wouldn't particularly say you have to do this. It's just one of the many ways.
So like no thoughts are really that random.
No.
I mean, you know, catch them, put them down, and they become like grist to the mill. I mean, more material for you.
Yeah, it's more material, and always save your material. Don't think you're going to, anything you write, if you scrap it now, keep it for later. You never know when you'll need it.
Right.
You never know how that will help you. So it's always best to store what you have and keep it in your...
In fact, another author sort of mentioned that she has this big book of where she cuts images. It's like a collage. So there are some thoughts, there are some pictures, wherever she finds them. It's like a scrapbook. And from that, I mean, but she has a idea in her mind where the story is going. But you know, she goes back, refers to it, therefore never gets stuck either. You know, because it's all coming alive out of that. I'm
just going to write that technique down.
Okay.
No, that's a really good technique.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's her way of doing it. And I'm sure that's helping us so well.
Yeah, it is.
And that's one, again, that's inspiration. Inspiration is like water. It can come in any shape or form, and you can find it anywhere. In anything, in anyone, in any conversation. And so you should always be on the lookout. And I try and do that. I try and write anywhere I can and store pieces of paper, and I don't store them as beautifully as you said she does. But I try to.
Okay. Okay, let's just open this up to any questions. Oh, there are many questions here. Okay.
Hi. How successful was your blog?
How successful?
Was your blog?
Your blog.
Blog. It was successful because I think the way I saw it as being successful is the fact that I started writing it more than anything. And however, then when I started getting, you get feedback from your friends and family, which is great. I think that they're my main critics, and like they tell me how it is, and they're very transparent. But when I started getting advice, more than comments saying how good I am, I think advice, when I started getting advice on how to correct myself, that's when I thought maybe I'm doing something right. Because if someone says, oh, it's great, they could be lying, because nothing is perfect, and you can keep molding it. So that's how I deemed it as being successful.
As long as you provoke a response, no? Yeah.
So, what's your official message for all the young budding authors right here? This can be taken in 2 ways. How to write, how to publish.
Official message, Prashant.
Just for publishing? Just for getting
both writing and publishing.
I think for writing, And this is this was a quote I read today, and it's brilliant. It was said by Mark Twain. It says, 20 years from now, you're going to regret the things you haven't done more than what you have done. So dream
And,
and
dream on, yeah.
explore
Yeah.
and just discover. So if you want to do something, just do it. So and however many people are here, whoever wants to write or do whatever they want, when it comes to writing, people are like, it's so hard to get published. And I don't know if everyone knows, I'm speaking to the youngest author here. He's written a brilliant book called The Immortal Death. So if someone has to give a message, it's also him. The fact that it's actually harder to write. And when you want to get published, because you've already done the hard work and you're so passionate about it, you will get published. Just the hard work is done. Now it's the perseverance. So keep approaching people, and I think don't approach to get published. If you want to do that, yes, but approach to improve. And then when they know you can improve, and you have improved, that's your gateway to getting published or doing whatever you want. So I hope I've answered your question. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Louder, just a little louder.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is that, as someone said, the short story is the hardest to write, and you have so many of them. So my question is that for every plot you have to make a new one, struggle with it, think that from the starting till the end. So my question is, where do you get your ideas from, and how do you make a plot? It's like something I struggle with a lot.
How do I? Sorry, what was the last?
The question is, how do you make a plot?
Okay, so for characterization, I choose the people I know, and then what I do is, one character has loads of different characters in it and people I know, and the one reason for that is because if my friends and family find themselves in the character, I'll have to start running, and I can't do that right now. Secondly, if like I was saying, it's just people I meet, I start molding stories from their lives, and I start creating them, and I just try and be as imaginative, and sometimes they go into thoughts that aren't making sense. So it's just a clutter, but look around you and people you know, and I'm sure you have experiences and stories that you've experienced the way you want them to, and the way you don't want them to, or how they should have been planned. And I think that's where a new story can come in, because you've already got 3 different ways of writing it. And characters, I think, for me at least, the more realistic they are, the more relatable they are, I find it easier to write and think like them. I just start thinking like them then. That's all I do.
And create your images.
And I create my images, yeah. If you can sketch, then just start like sketching your ideas. I can't sketch that well, so I can't. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question is, I read through your book, which I found really good.
Thank you.
And you have written like through the perspectives of a lot of people,
Yes.
like be it from the perspective of a son or a wife. So how difficult was it to like switch between mindsets of different people, and how long did it take? And I have another question, which is regarding like how you've placed your stories in different like settings and
Yes.
different contexts.
Yes.
So how did you go about researching about like, you always have to have some
Yes.
basis. So how did you go about researching to
Okay.
like start your story?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Okay, so to answer the second question first with research, because that's how I start. I love researching. I get lost in the world of the internet, as many of us might do nowadays. I have a bad habit of going from one link and then opening a new tab and a new tab, and then I'm looking at cats. It just gets really random. And what happens is I research. If I don't research characters, like as I just answered the question of characters, I try and make as realistic. But settings, for example, if I'm talking about Kargil, I read about what actually was happening at the time, because when I was 5, I didn't know as much. So, and I try then depicting it and creating different folders and notes. So I don't start writing it, and this is how I did my thesis in college. I got a lot of content, underlined what I wanted, and it's just a procedure that I like, and doing it actually helped me. I started underlining what I wanted, taking it out, and then curating it in a manner. And as per your first question, as per thinking about different perspectives, it's actually, I end up, like everyone thinks in the same manner, but I think when you start talking like them, it's different because I might think about happiness in a different way you're thinking about it, and we might approach it in a different manner. So then I'll have to understand the way you're thinking about it, or I'll talk to you, or talk to anyone here, and curate it, and then try and mold myself, hoping that it's different. And if for some reason it has, when the sun is talking, it feels like the sun is talking, then I feel happy to know that it's helped. Because I don't go with I just try and make them very different and relatable. So yeah, I hope I've answered your question. I spoke too much.
We call this the point of view in theatre.
Oh, yeah.
Different point of view, yeah. Who else?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Kush.
Hi,
Oh, there he is.
So I just wanted to ask you, like, when we're writing, so should the author know what he's about to write from the beginning, or just find his way through the novel while he keeps on writing?
You said it. Find your way. Know, like I said, know the beginning and end, or just know the beginning at times as well. Forget the end. Maybe the end, because what happens in the end? Now I'm contradicting myself completely. So, but know the beginning, maybe know the end, and just find your path between it. And what happens with that is you end up creating subplots, and subplots are really important because if you keep harping on your plot, then the reader might get bored, or they know what's going to happen. Subplots divert. It's like like a bowler bowling a spin ball and then bowling a fast ball. So that's basically what it is.
Yeah. But that's the young boy who's been asking all the authors that he wants to write. So in another 5 years, Kush is going to be up here with his book, right?
So I want to ask you, how do you approach it?
He wants to get started. He doesn't know how.
I'm just here to steal ideas, please.
Even I'm here to steal ideas. I'm just looking for inspiration from somewhere. Let's see. Hopefully the next 2 years.
Yes, I look forward to that. We all do. Yeah.
Okay. Kush, in fact, is going to be performing at 4:45. We have our play performance. He's one of the actors in that. So yeah,
everyone please come for that and ask him questions afterwards. And make them hard.
Which is right outside Darbar Hall. There's a performance of the Yuva Ekta group. Right, okay.
4:45.
4:45, yeah, straight from here. Okay.
Hi, I'm Prathima Manocha.
Hi.
And my question to you is that did you always know that you're going to be a writer, or did it just happen out of nowhere?
It just happened. I didn't think I was going to be a writer. I didn't plan, and I think that's what makes it. That's why I enjoy it so much, because it was unexpected. I didn't plan it. I'm still not planning anything. I think I'm trying to go one word at a time, and that's how I'm taking it, and hopefully that's how I'm going to take it further.
Yeah.
Yes.
What if people say if your book is not good enough, like your friends and family?
Yeah. Well, ignore them. Disown them.
That's where self-belief comes in, right? You believe?
If they say it, improve on it. I think you should then find out where, and they have said it. They haven't said it as brutally, and I'm glad they haven't. No, but the way they say it, and that's where the edits come in, because you edit a book so many times. I think I've edited this one 9 times, if not 10 times in the past 2 months. And that's because friends, family, and readers have actually said it's not good enough, or we're not understanding what you want to do. And you can't think you know it all. And I think the second you do that, you'll be your only reader and the only person applauding when you close the book. So and
yeah.
And otherwise just go with the first thing I said, disown them.
Is there a personal experience there? Looks like it. Okay. All right. Any other question? Okay, there's one.
Hi, I think congratulations for good work.
Thank you so much.
I think I just want to get a point of view. Probably, I think it's open for both of you.
Right.
See, I've grown up reading a lot of, the oldies from Hindi, like, Prem Chand, even Ravindranath Tagore, and Babu Devkinandan Khatri, if anybody might have, heard of. So just want to get a point of view, what is the relevance of those kind of writers now? Because I think last few years, Indian writing has changed a lot. A lot of Indian writers with quite a methodical changes have come. So I can't explain that, but you can guess what I'm trying to kind of sense into.
Yeah.
So if there is any point of view in terms of what's still the relevance of those when, people here are taking some inputs from you.
Yeah, you go first. You go first.
I think one, you have to be able to realize that that's probably the best piece of work we've got, and that's the first bar we need to try and reach. So people should not forget, and they aren't. That's what I find amazing, and I applaud that you cannot forget. That's the inspiration. Everyone. I started reading Larkin and Apsey, and the way they write, the way they express themselves, it's so unique, and like you rightly said, it's changing with time, and that's what's great. I like that there's a change. People shouldn't try and compare their work to others, because then you lose your own creativity. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I want to just say that those are classics.
Yeah.
Absolute classics, and classics are timeless. You know, and though Tagore, I mean Premchand, you think of them and it's, I did it in school, I haven't revisited them, but I still remember characters. You know, so the context, yeah, okay, it takes you back to a certain time and space because of the context, but the characters are so, I mean, they're still universal and they're so beautifully fleshed out. So, I mean, as you said, that's the bar, but I mean, a classic will always remain a classic and always relevant. You know, so you've taken names that are like literally, you know, hats off to them, and I hope we continue to honor and value them. You know, because you're right, because they are, I mean, yeah, people don't talk about them as much as they should actually. But thank you for bringing those names up. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Do you think you will ever attempt a novel? You're partial to short stories.
Yeah.
But if you ever write a novel, what genre would it be?
I'm writing one right now, and there's not one particular genre. And the reason for that is because I don't see one emotion as a lonesome emotion. I think it's a ripple effect. It leads. I mean, if you keep feeling one emotion all the time, it's not called what it's called. If you're sad all the time, it's not you being sad. That's just you. You know, or if you're happy all the time, that's just you. So this novel, I'm not going to give out too much of it, at least not yet. It has 2 points of view. It's got 2 protagonists. It's got 2 characters, and it's got every emotion and every genre in it. So that's, yeah.
There's a question there.
Yes.
I think that's a budding author, or as he called, yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. I wanted to know because, like, especially in India,
Yes.
if you have a dream and it's pretty big, if you ever choose to tell anyone about your dream, this is specifically the Indian parental mindset. बहुत बड़ा है बेटा छोड़ दे ऐसा थोड़ी होता है कोई असलियत में पिक्चर है देख के इन्फ्लुएंस हो रहा है
So
have you ever had that problem with your life, like were your parents always supportive?
they're very, very supportive. But let me
Clarify.
Let me just
or-
carry. I'm so glad you said that, because we were discussing this briefly earlier. People seem to just doubt, you know, at first. And this is, I've been fortunate that I've had my family. They've never doubted me. They just said, if you're doing it, make sure you do it to your fullest. Then let your cause take you where you go. However, if people, you know, ever question you, and or question anything you do, and they raise their eyebrow and like doubt, let it change to an awe. You know, and that's up to you, because your dream, when you sleep, you dream. No one else is dreaming. That's why it's your dream, and the only person who can fulfill it is you. So, and it's good to have doubters, because you know that's because it changes then. These doubters will then appreciate your work, and they only doubt. I think people don't doubt just for the sake of hating. I think they doubt because they care about you, but I feel if you want to do something, just don't think of the consequence. Just do what you want to do.
That's not exactly my question. My question is
Sorry. This is me overthinking and just speaking. Yeah.
my question basically is that we all have different dreams, different things that for many of not reality. But then if you think about it, people who have achieved those dreams, that is the reality for them.
Yeah.
That is not a fantasy for them.
Yeah.
So, like, everyone around us will be like, that's a fantasy. But you know that it's not.
So what's the question?
The question is how to, like, stick with it.
How to
Because
step- how to
you
step
have
forward.
so much negativity around you.
That's fine. I mean, I think negativity is fine. I mean, because you're supposed to then just guard yourself against it. What you're saying, in fact, your question has the answer in it, because you're saying someone's fantasy is another person's reality, right? Now, when you look at someone, when you look at an artist paint, okay, and you've never seen an art, very rarely do you see the artist actually painting. You see the artwork, and then you appreciate the artwork, right? So, which is basically it. People aren't here to look at your process. They don't care about your process. They want to see the ultimatum. That's up to you. Stepping further it's your step. It's your dream, like I said. So, whatever you want to do, you've thought about it for a reason. You're dreaming. It's called a dream for a reason, right? And people are negative because they feel they might not be able to achieve it, or they feel you will not be able to achieve it, but that's fine. You have to have a balance. It's like a seesaw, like there's positivity and negative aspects, and you have to be able to balance that.
I think what he said initially about self-belief, you know, if that dream is strong enough, have the courage also to jump into it and try it out. You know, don't all start by saying, no, I won't succeed, I'll fail. You won't take that first step. Yeah?
So, as you mentioned quite a few times that you overthink a lot.
Yeah.
So, does that in any way either act as a hurdle to your writing, that you get so confused with your plot and what you want to do with it, or is it an asset to you?
It's a hurdle first, it's an asset later, and I'll tell you why I say that. There have been times where I've written so much, and I've got too many subplots within my one plot, and I just like borrow it. Like, can I take you here? You're a new story. You know, and then I start going from there. So the overthinking does, but I'd call it more of like assistance to me. I like overthinking. It helps me filter my thoughts, filter my words, and then edit 9 to 10 times.
And it doesn't trip you up.
It does, and when I trip, I pick up the words and I put them there.
Okay. Yeah, anyone else? I want to ask Sanil's parents. Was it difficult, or have you always been really open and okay, if that's what he wants to do, that's his dream, yeah? And was there anyone in your family who asked you that, are you crazy? Why can't he do both? I mean, that's something that people keep saying. Dono karo. Why give up your job, work during the day and at night write?
Yeah.
Can't hear you, ma'am. Is that on?
You might.
Okay. No, could you repeat your question, please?
My thing was that did you at any point, when he came to you, you know, and he had a job at Star Sports, did you want him to carry on trying both rather than, it's an extreme step to dump your job and just get into this?
True. Well, fortunately at his age, to have started so young, he's had our support.
Right.
So the worry wasn't there where he's going to really earn his bread. I'm sorry, you've got a bad throat, but...
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, so he could take that risk where we were concerned. But if you had to ask me and say that Sanil wants to take this path, will you let him go ahead? I said yes. Yes, please do. And I think we've done that from day one, from the time the children were young. Our daughter, for example, has left the corporate world for a while to go and become a chef.
Okay.
Which is two different fields altogether.
Right.
But if they have the confidence and they feel they want to pursue a dream, we're always there to support them.
But do you find that your friends, etc., are as open-minded today?
I think so. I think, as you see, the generation today is just pursuing their dreams.
Right.
And moving, you know, on their path. And yeah, we're there. I think we're very closely monitoring them, no doubt. But we're confident in them as they're confident in themselves.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you. No, because
thank
our young friend there obviously is not getting the support that he wants right now. Therefore, his question.
Well, I think you should feel motivated today.
Yeah, I think you should just go for what you want to do.
A young author.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Remember, we all come with our own script.
Yeah.
You're your own hero, your own scriptwriter, your own director. So parents are there to guide, but the final decisions are yours.
Yeah.
So have the courage. I think you need courage right now.
And just for you and for everyone else, I just want to share this the 3 lines, and I think this might answer your question maybe, and this is the epigraph in the book. There were 2 roads ahead. I could either go right and see what's left, or I could go left and do all that's right. I created a third route, and now I'm left with all that's right. And that, that is how you get people out.
Yeah? Are there any questions, or should we wrap up? I think it's time.
Hi, I'm sorry I came in late. What are your plans? What's your next project, Sanil?
My next project, well, I'm a Gemini, so I have these two sides. One is writing, and the other is doing other things that involves two of my closest friends who are sitting here. And we've got this NDA, I can't really disclose much on that. But otherwise, I'm writing a novel.
You've got this what? I didn't get that.
It's a non-disclosure agreement. I
oh,
can't.
Okay.
I mean,
non-disclosure agreement. Okay.
But I'm
setting you up for that.
No. It's not.
Okay.
But I'm writing. I'm writing a novel as well, and I'm a part of a movie called Mantra. Yes, and Nicholas said hi. I forgot saying that.
Oh, Nicholas. Okay.
And I'm co-producing that. So I'm looking forward to that. That comes out this year.
Is it your screenplay or you?
No.
And
That's Nicholas's screenplay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all his beautiful work. It's
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Done. Thanks, Sanil.
Yeah.
That
Thank
was
you
a
so
great
much.
conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And more courage and luck. You have one more question?
Sorry. Yeah.
You should speak up.
I know.
Sorry. Did you go through a writer's block while writing this one in particular?
Yeah, I did. I went, not when I was writing this, but in 2014 I went through one where I wanted to write a book. I think that's why I tripped up majorly, but not for this one.
So this one was like an entire flow?
Like I said, I started writing 3 years ago, but not with the intention of a book. I just started collecting them, and I just compiled it, and I created it into this amalgamation of the dark side of light.
So as he said, he has these little thoughts he keeps writing down. And you have a book, and so every time you feel you're stuck, you revisit that.
Yeah.
It's all material for you. But it requires work and discipline. Last question, how long do you write every day for? Do you write every day?
I try and write every day. I mean, I do write every day. At times it's one word.
Yeah.
At times it's 24 hours aren't enough. So I choose to sit down and write. And more than write, I like to read and think about what's actually happening around and be aware of everything that's happening anywhere, and it could be in any field. And that actually helps me stem the ideas together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
guys for being here.
Big thank you to Sanil Sachar and Puneeta Roy for this wonderful conversation. The author will be